Every trip to the grocery store is a rental payment on food you should already own. The vegetable aisle is a subscription service. Stop paying, stop eating. But underground, beneath your feet right now, there's a class of crops that work completely differently. Plant them once and they produce for decades without replanting. No seed catalogs, no annual tilling, no dependency on any supply chain. Today I'm giving you 15 of them, roots, tubers, and perennial underground crops that your great-grandparents understood and the modern food industry desperately needs you to forget. Here's the economic model the modern food system runs on. Annual crops. Plants that die every year, forcing you to buy new seeds every spring, till your soil every season, and remain permanently dependent on whoever controls the seed supply. In 2023, the average American family spent over $1,200 annually just on fresh vegetables. That number climbs every year. Meanwhile, the soil in a well-planted perennial bed improves every year, like to the opposite trajectory. There's a deeper cost most people never calculate. Annual cropping systems require constant external inputs: fertilizers, pesticides, diesel for tillage equipment, packaging, refrigerated transport averaging 1,500 miles from farm to plate. Every link in that chain is a failure point. When fuel prices spike, food prices spike. When a drought hits California's Central Valley, which supplies 75% of America's lettuce, the shelves go thin in Ohio. Here's what they don't tell you. The industrial food system isn't just fragile, it's structurally designed to keep you purchasing. And the shift away from perennial crops happened deliberately during agricultural industrialization in the 20th century. Perennial plants that regenerate themselves every year don't require repeat purchases. They don't fit the sales model. During the Victory Garden movement of World War II, Americans with perennial food plants in their yards ate consistently through rationing. Those with annual-only gardens had to start over every spring under wartime seed shortages. The families who understood underground perennials, Jerusalem artichokes, horseradish, walking onions, never went hungry. That knowledge didn't disappear. It just got buried under 70 years of marketing. The crops I'm about to show you are infrastructure, not groceries. You plant infrastructure once. It works for you indefinitely. Yet number 1, Jerusalem artichoke, sunchoke. Jerusalem artichokes have nothing to do with Jerusalem and aren't artichokes. The name is likely a corruption of the Italian word girasole, sunflower, because that's what they are, a wild North American sunflower whose underground tubers are edible. Plant one tuber in spring, and you'll harvest dozens that fall. Leave some in the ground, and they come back every year without any intervention. Here's the historical validation. During the Dust Bowl, when topsoil blew off and annual crops failed across the Great Plains, homesteaders who had Jerusalem artichokes survived on them. The tubers stay viable in the ground through winter and can be harvested whenever the soil isn't frozen. They're essentially a self-replenishing food cache. And the mechanism that makes them exceptional is inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Unlike potato starch, inulin doesn't spike blood sugar, making sunchokes genuinely useful for diabetics and metabolic health. The plants grow 6 to 10 feet tall and function simultaneously as a windbreak and privacy screen. For implementation, buy certified disease-free seed tubers from a reputable seed company for about $15 per pound, which will plant a 20-foot row. Plant 4 inches deep, 12 inches apart, in any soil with reasonable drainage. They're aggressive spreaders, so plant them where containment isn't a concern or use a buried root barrier. One investment, perpetual harvest. Number 2, horseradish. Horseradish is essentially indestructible. Plant a root cutting once, and you will have horseradish on that spot for the rest of your life, and possibly your children's lives. Leave a fragment of root in the soil, and it regenerates. It tolerates poor soil, drought, and hard frost. In terms of pure low-maintenance productivity, nothing else on this list competes. The active compound is allyl isothiocyanate, the chemical that creates the intense heat when fresh root is grated and exposed to air. This same compound has documented antimicrobial and antifungal properties. European herbalists used it for centuries as a treatment for respiratory infections and urinary tract problems, and modern studies have confirmed significant antibacterial activity against pathogens, including E. coli and Listeria. And this dual function, culinary staple and medicinal plant, is what makes horseradish infrastructure. The roots store indefinitely in cold, damp conditions, essentially refrigerating themselves underground through winter. You harvest what you need, the rest remains viable. For implementation, purchase root cuttings from a nursery or online supplier. Expect to pay $4 to $8 per root. Plant 12 inches deep in a contained bed or a corner you don't mind surrendering, because it will spread. Harvest roots in fall when concentration is highest. One planting produces usable harvest within 18 months and continues indefinitely. The jarred horseradish at the grocery store costs $6 for 6 ounces. Your established plant produces pounds annually at zero additional cost. Artichoke number 3 was stinging nettle. Stinging nettle produces some of the highest protein content of any plant you can grow in a temperate climate, comparable to spinach but with dramatically higher iron, calcium, and vitamins A, C, and K. Plant it once, and it naturalizes permanently. It spreads by both rhizome and seed, meaning an established patch maintains and expands itself without any help from you. The sting disappears completely with blanching in boiling water for 60 seconds. After that, it's handled and cooked like any leafy green. In Northern Europe, nettle has been a food crop for over 3,000 years. During World War I, when conventional food supplies collapsed across Germany, the government organized civilian nettle harvesting campaigns. The fiber in the stalks was used for military uniforms when cotton became unavailable. A one plant, food and fiber. Established nettle patches are harvested in early spring when growth is most tender, then cut back and allowed to regenerate. A mature 10 square foot patch can produce 6 to 8 cutting harvests per season. Find root divisions from a local forager or order from a specialty perennial nursery. Plant in a moist, semi-shaded location with rich soil. Wear gloves during establishment and harvest. This isn't difficult. It's just unfamiliar. And once it's in, it asks nothing from you. Here's what's striking about every crop we've covered so far. They were all primary survival foods during 20th century crises, and they're all but absent from modern gardening guides. That absence is not an accident. The next crops I'm about to show you are even more productive and even more thoroughly buried by mainstream gardening culture. Number 4, Egyptian walking onion. The Egyptian walking onion, also called the tree onion or perennial onion, produces edible bulblets at the top of the stalk instead of flowers. Those topsets become heavy. The stalk bends to the ground. The bulblets take root, and the plant effectively walks itself across your garden. Every year, without replanting, the colony expands. You can harvest greens year-round in mild climates, and the small underground bulbs are usable like shallots. Documented in American homesteading literature going back to the 1800s, walking onions appear in nearly every pre-industrial kitchen garden manual. They were planted at the farmhouse and forgotten, requiring nothing, and produced consistently for generations. There are documented family strains that have been continuously vegetatively propagated for over 100 years without any replanting. The onion family in general produces organosulfur compounds with broad antimicrobial properties. Walking onions provide this benefit in a format that regenerates indefinitely. They don't get diseases the way hybrid annual onions do. They're adapted. Purchase topsets from a reputable heirloom seed source. Plant in fall or early spring, 4 inches deep, in well-drained soil with full sun. 1 dozen topsets will establish a self-sustaining colony within 2 years. After that, they are genuinely permanent infrastructure. On to number 5, oca, New Zealand yam. Oca is the second most important root crop in the Andean highlands of South America, second only to the potato, and almost completely unknown in North America. It produces small, jewel-bright tubers in red, yellow, and orange that taste like a cross between a potato and a lemony sorrel. They're high in carbohydrates and vitamin C, and their oxalic sharpness mellows after sunning the tubers for a few days post-harvest. Andean farmers have been cultivating OCA continuously for over 8,000 years. It survived conquest, crop shifts, and industrial agriculture because smallholders understood its resilience and productivity. Oca is frost-hardy to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit, drought-tolerant once established, and produces tubers in poor rocky soils where potatoes would fail. The plants die back in frost, but the tubers remain viable underground through winter and resprout in spring. Source tubers from a specialty perennial plant nursery. Plant after last frost, 3 inches deep, 12 inches apart. Leave some tubers in the ground after harvest, and they'll re-establish automatically the following spring. 8,000 years of continuous cultivation is a track record the modern seed industry cannot match. Number 6, Scorzonera. Scorzonera is a black-skinned perennial root vegetable that was one of the most important vegetables in European cuisine from the 16th through the 19th century, and then largely vanished from the Anglo-American diet after industrial food processing arrived. It's now experiencing a quiet revival among chefs who value its delicate, oyster-like flavor and reliable performance. The roots are harvested in fall of the first year, but can be left in the ground to continue growing for 2 or 3 years, developing into substantial roots. The plants self-seed readily, creating a self-perpetuating colony once established. Every part is edible: leaves, flowers, and roots. Scorzonera is notably high in inulin and has a long history in herbal medicine for digestive support. Direct sow seed in spring in deep, loose soil with at least 12 inches of depth. 1 packet establishes a self-seeding colony. Once naturalized, this vegetable requires almost no attention and produces indefinitely. Notice the pattern. Every crop we've covered was a primary food source for a civilization and was quietly sidelined by industrial agriculture, not because it stopped working, but because it stopped generating repeat purchases. Now, the crops coming up solve water, calories, and nutrition simultaneously in conditions where annual crops would fail. Number 7, Mashua, Tropiolum tuberosum. Mashua is the Andean relative of the common nasturtium, meaning the flowers, leaves, and tubers are all edible. It has one of the highest yields of any root crop on Earth, grows in poor soil, tolerates frost, and is virtually pest-resistant because its plant chemistry deters insects and mammals. Traditional Andean records describe Mashua as a staple food and emergency reserve crop used by the Inca. When conventional crops failed at altitude, Mashua produced. Source tubers from a specialty supplier. Plant after last frost and treat similarly to potatoes, leaving a portion of the harvest in the ground each year. The flavor is peppery raw and mild when cooked. Once established in suitable climates, this plant asks little and produces every autumn. Number 8, Sweet Sicily. Sweet Sicily is a woodland perennial whose roots, seeds, and leaves function as a natural sweetener thanks to the compound anethole. Historically used to extend sugar in cooking, it allows tart fruits to require far less added sugar. It grows well in partial shade, self-seeds, and forms a permanent colony. The roots can be eaten young, seeds used in baking, and leaves added fresh to dishes. Plant under fruit trees or in shaded beds where most food plants fail. It solves the food forest understory problem with a permanent daily use plant. There's an underlying principle connecting every crop on this list. Annual crops follow a fast return strategy: germinate, grow, seed, and die in one season. They're optimized for speed, not resilience, and are vulnerable to drought, frost, pests, and supply disruptions. Perennial underground crops follow a slow return strategy. They invest in permanent root systems that store energy across decades. When drought comes, they draw on reserves. When frost kills the top growth, they resprout from established roots. The real plant, the investment, lives underground. This is the difference between renting and owning. Annual plants rent the soil for one season. Perennials own it, and that ownership compounds. Root systems deepen over time, accessing water and minerals annual crops never reach. Soil organic matter builds, water retention improves, and microbial life strengthens. The infrastructure improves itself. Economically, the comparison is exact. Annual crops require reinvestment every year. Perennials are capital investments with declining costs and increasing yields. Many peak in years 3 to 5 and remain productive for decades. Mixed perennial plantings also become ecologically interdependent. Nitrogen fixers improve soil, deep-rooted plants cycle minerals, flowering species attract pollinators. You're not just growing crops, you're building a system that becomes more productive every year. This is ownership of biological infrastructure. It produces returns for decades, improves with age, and requires no subscription to function. The food industry relies on you remaining a consumer. Annual seeds, annual purchases, annual dependency. Every crop on this list represents a permanent exit from that transaction, not a protest, not a statement, a structural change in how your household relates to food production. This doesn't require acreage. A modest, established planting of Jerusalem artichokes, Egyptian walking onions, horseradish, groundnut, and sweet Sicily can make a meaningful contribution to a family's diet, and that contribution increases every year for decades without additional investment. The initial establishment cost is low, while the grocery spending displaced within a few years can be substantial. This isn't about replacing your grocery store overnight. It's a compounding investment in biological infrastructure that reduces vulnerability to food inflation and supply disruptions. Every year you don't plant is another year of rental payments on something you could own. Choose one crop from this list, just one, and order it this week. Plant it this season, leave it alone. And observe what a permanent system looks like when it begins its first year. Your grandchildren will eat from what you plant today. That is ownership. That is the opposite of rental. And it starts with one decision this week.